to a random episode of Rockets Talk. I got my man Roosh, just coming off of Roosh, brother. Like I just said, we had no preparation for this podcast. We just witnessed, to me, two of the back-to-back greatest in my life basketball games I've ever watched. And I haven't talked to Roosh about both of these games, and I just want to dive right in, bro. First of all, what is your reaction to seeing Steph Curry just, like, I guess this is what it feels like for Warriors fans to watch them kill Rockets. What is your reaction to that, like, watching that game?
First and foremost, just so everyone knows, this is two dudes who love basketball who are just like so, at least for me, like childishly inspired by what I just watched. And I was like, bro, let's just talk. You know, I just want to talk about this game. Inspiring game. That's definitely what it's like for Warriors fans. Like, wow, what a thing. Every time they kept going up, I was like, oh, not that one. And then it just kept dropping and dropping. That behind the back, and it's crazy because Mike Breen was like, does he have another dagger in him? And he goes behind the back, fading to the right. I think he had two guys in his face. Maybe I'm being hyperbolic in the moment, but that's the coldest three I've ever seen in my life. That might be the coldest shot I've ever seen in my life. And I'm talking.
Are you talking about the high arcing one or the one where Yabusele almost tripped and then Batum tried to come and double real quick? Because there was two.
I'm talking about the one that made it 98 to, or the one. Hold on, where is it? He goes behind the back to his right. It's like the one that basically sealed it with like 45 seconds.
Oh, okay.
Left.
I think that's there was two crazy ones, but I know what you're talking about.
It was the last one he made where it was just like he faded off to the right and just like crazy.
Launched it up. Crazy.
Bro, that's one of the coldest I've ever seen. So for me, that is the highest level of basketball that you will see, period. That is the apex of basketball, right? Like it won't, no matter how much players evolve over time, it will never get better than what you just saw. And my very first initial takeaway is, man, the rule changes to basketball that make defense harder to play have ruined the game. I know they've ruined the game, but watching that game and that display of physicality on both ends of the floor that results in each player stepping up their level of execution and executing just at crazy high levels, and also showing, that they are fallible in some ways. Like LeBron had 5 turnovers. Steph had 5 turnovers. That turnover at the end of the third quarter is one of the dumbest I've ever seen, right? So it was such a raw, physical style of basketball that coupled with the crazy skill, it was just, I'm still processing and comprehending it. That's my first takeaway. What about you?
Man, I mean, there's so many things that we could talk about this for, but just for the Steph Curry part, he had a bad game up to that point. And he had he was hitting his threes, but defensively he's always had issues. And there was a quote he said after the game that, to me, it kind of embodies what is kind of the challenge about putting together just these super teams in the NBA or on the Olympic stage. He said that because all of these guys are shot makers, they were being indecisive. So he just said in his mind that, you know what, I'm just going to do this. And I think that for all of them, we've seen stretches where they take over and you see what makes them the best at blah, 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 the GOAT, the best shooter, the closer. We saw the KD game. We've seen LeBron do it. We've seen Ant do it. It's like all of them have the ability to do it, but the hardest thing to do, and I think why the Olympic thing makes it kind of an even match, is that everybody has to play a role. And to your point about the rules, I think the physicality really evens out. And to, the discussion about the plumbers and the thing that Michael Jordan and them play with, the reason those type of players were effective is because the game was more physical. Yes. So the physicality of lesser players is almost evens out the playing field a bit for the skill level, because if you allow, right now it's the era of skill, like pure skill. The league wants to push skill. So guys are going to use their advantages to draw fouls, to get favor from the referees. If you let guys really play to their strengths, where a guy that's not a skill could just be big, like some of the French players, like Yabusele, like the other dude that they said was like 6'9", 250. If you let a 6'9", 250, I don't give a damn if he's a tight end. They just threw him in a basketball game. He's going to make an impact defensively, bro. Like, just being big and strong. Yes. And to me, that's what I saw. Like, I saw a lot of just hard play, and it was so beautiful to see our guys, these like higher echelon levels players, play in that mud. They had to run plays. They had to play defense. Dudes have to read the game. It challenges your IQ, your endurance. I mean, this is like basketball nirvana, in my opinion.
Bro, and there's so much adversity. I mean, they face so much adversity. Like some of those turnovers they made, like the one Steph made in the backcourt, the one KD and Ant had at the end of the third quarter. LeBron had a couple where I was like on that inbounds pass where he tried to hit KD in the corner and KD had to stretch out for it and stepped out of bounds.
Yeah.
Steph went baseline and tried to pass it and when he corralled the ball, lost it, got it back, stepped on the baseline. Like the adversity that they face as a result of that physicality and how tight all the passing lanes are and how difficult everything is to overcome. It's like it brings out a different level of the game for me, man. Like it's something we saw a minimal amount of flopping, right?
Oh, there's no flopping.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
no.
a couple dudes will try, a move here and there. They won't get the call and they're like, all right, I'm not going to do that anymore, right? It's just a different level of basketball. And kind of like you said, when you're allowed to be physical, like we saw Steph turning the ball over today, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's because they were physical with him. The shots he was hitting were insanely difficult. Like the difficulty level of the shots Steph made today was very high. And you don't really see that happen. You do see it happen, of course, in the NBA, but I don't know how to phrase it. It's just different when he's not allowed to drive and get like body contact and kind of flail to the, and get his free throws. Like they were all over him. And he was struggling at first, and then he came on. LeBron, 5 turnovers, like I said. So to me, that is where you get to see the best of the best. And I think that's partially why some of these dudes like Yabusele was in the NBA for 2 years.
Yeah,
27. Basically, when Chris Paul was with the Rockets, Yabusele was also in Boston and in the NBA. He was like, I think 22 and 23. I think he averaged 2.4 points per game and then 2.3 points per game. He scored a total of like 174 points or something like that in his entire NBA career. And tonight he just dropped like 20 something, right? Basically like, 13% of his entire NBA career in points, he just dropped tonight. Why is that? Because it's a different style of play. He was physical. He was allowed to put his shoulder down and just kind of, use that to his advantage. So totally different playing field, totally different style of basketball, but man, the intensity, it's just fun. It's way more fun to watch than knowing, first of all, watching, 32 free throws per team,
right,
and with like the continual stoppage and all that kind of stuff. And then it's just more fun to watch because that like guys are having to battle through an actual physical type of combat instead of just like baiting the refs. Like they're playing the game instead of playing the refs. So
yeah,
that just made me feel young again, man. I feel old these days, but that with basketball made me feel young for 2 hours.
I think that's, just the skill level it takes to execute on that stage. And this is, to me, I compare it to like the Mortal Kombat of basketball, like where you're been summoned from your realm to come and show up and fight for the existence of your world. That like, and that's for people from other countries. I know we take it for granted. Like conceptually, the Olympics is the best athletes. It's a world tournament. Shout out to Dragon Ball Z fan. Like it's the world tournament, bro. This is like the world tournament. This is the battle for the universes. And this is like the peak. And even just being like the opening ceremony, having all those athletes in one place, like looking across, you're seeing some of the best humans at their respective sports. And to be on that stage for basketball and to be playing at this level, as we could even take a big picture now, since we talked about some of the details from the game, some of the announcements I heard, LeBron passes it to Kevin Durant, who kicks the ball to Steph Curry for the 3. Like, bro, that sequence of a call is not normal. Like hearing like this, it was just so special, man. And just to appreciate, to me, like I think for us, like we kind of grew up, like we're the same age, so our like what I would say our consciousness of basketball started in like the mid 90s, later 90s, and then overlapped into the 2000s. But LeBron James, for most of, for us, and he came out when we were like in middle school, high school, he's been a star our whole lives, like pretty much our whole adult lives. And to watch, KD, same thing. Steph came a little bit later, but he's been there. To watch all these guys play at this level, there is a bit of like emotions behind it because you're seeing like an era of players that to me is one of one. I don't think we're going to get a collection of players that impacted the game as much. You may have players with talent levels similar to it, but for coming out of the 90s into the 2000s, for what those 3 guys did for the sport of basketball and transforming it to what it is today, to watch them play on the Olympic stage and represent the country and really each of them have their fingerprints all over this gold medal that they got. It was something that, I was telling my wife. She was like, why are you, because we were driving. Remember I told you, okay, I was out school shopping. Y'all parents out there in Houston knows tax-free weekend on Beltway 8, damn near crashing now, trying to watch this on a small iPhone, bro. My wife was like, calm down. I'm like, babe, you don't know, man. This is it. This is my childhood finishing up right here. So let me just have a moment. But it was a special game. Like, it was a special moments throughout.
So I think LeBron, KD, and Steph are the modern Michael, Larry, and Magic, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think that's a pretty good comparison, right? I mean, right? MJ, LeBron, that's obvious. Magic and Steph, like the point guards of this generation. Magic defined, what a point guard was in the 80s leading up to however many decades after that. Steph has kind of defined the new age point guard. And then obviously classic swingman, Larry Bird, KD, right? Probably the two best small forwards of all time. Unless obviously not counting LeBron James. But so yeah, I mean, look, the passing of the torch was crazy, bro. I mean, like, to see those guys and to realize like we might not ever get to see these guys go at it like that again. And shout out to them, by the way, for taking like the call seriously. Like Team USA basketball, to me, like, bro, when we grew up, remember Mighty Ducks 2?
Yeah.
And like that's another Team USA, like those kinds of things in the 90s, at least for me, the way that they like stuck is like Team USA was larger than life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember ordering, like, I think I tweeted about this yesterday. I remember ordering like from the book order. If you guys remember, if I got the age in here that remembers the day of the book order, the era of the book order, I would get like an Olympic book with like the stickers or the bookmarks or whatever. You know what I mean? Like those are the pictures I remember from my childhood, both men's and women's. I remember Rebecca Lobo, for example, back on like the 96 women's basketball team, right? So to see them come back and do it this way, especially with the rest of the world, I mean, dying to dethrone the U.S., right? They feel like every 4 years, they're like, oh, this is the one. And they continue to get closer and closer. And then we still come in and shut the door on them, right? 11-point victory, double digits after all that. So to me, it's wildly emotional. Like if you can't get behind that for country, I don't know what to say. I wouldn't even know what to say. Like when that happens, I'm just like, USA. Like,
dude, man, look, I got my bro, this is my, I work for the government, but yeah, I got my stuff on, man. I had to put it on, bro. I'm over here like, you would have thought, bro, hey, man, I seen somebody put a tweet out that said, listen, they said the way I was watching this game, you would have had to be looking for me on January 6th, 2021. I would have been one of the bros out there the way I was watching this game. You'd have thought it was, but nah, you spot on. Like, okay, you did bring up something though. This took the Avengers of the U.S. to get this gold, and it was some close calls. What is next? Like, what is the avenue for us? Do you think the jig is up that after this in 2028 it's an even playing field, or do you think the U.S. is always going to have a way to outclass the world?
I think it's very much the dominance will run out once LeBron is done, right? I mean, Team USA has powered because of LeBron. Recently, obviously, he took the Redeem Team very seriously. Him and Kobe and Dwayne Wade, obviously, and Dwight Howard, Chris Paul, everyone. I think Darren Williams. The Redeem Team was big, right? Because I remember the 2004 loss to Puerto Rico. I remember being in my living room. I will never forget. I was just like, what the. I was like, what? Carlos Arroyo? Right? And so obviously that changed things, 2008. But from here on out, when LeBron is gone, when KD is gone, when Steph is gone, I mean, I don't know, right? Like
Ant.
You
got Ant.
You got Ant.
Still there.
Ant
28 years old.
Ant punching that
20s.
alley-oop from KD.
Yeah,
that was nice. That was like, to me, that was a moment of like torch passing. That's like one of the most tangible torch passings you'll ever see. I was like, wow, that's basketball, like, oh my God, ecstasy, right? I was like, yo, this is crazy. But like, who is it? I mean, Devin Booker in 4 more years.
Yeah,
like,
he'll be back. I think he's 27 or something like that. So he'll be an old head. Yeah, hopefully. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I feel like the U.S. archetype these days is like the pure scorer, primarily the pure scorer and like the athletic big man that can jump through the roof. I do think we're lacking on like a team, a point guard, and
Yeah.
just like a chief, right? Like LeBron is so big and he's so physical and athletic and skilled that when we're out there against the best in the world, sometimes we can just rely on him being a bowling ball or a bully and just bullying someone and making something happen, right? And we can talk about the difference, how Team USA played today. But without that, I feel like we have a bunch of finesse, like 6'6" swing, guards. And it's like, you're going to need something more than that because these teams practice with each other for years. Like that French team, all those guys play with each other a lot in the past, right? That is Team USA's disadvantage, is that we just assemble stars and, put them in a lab for a month and say, go get the gold, right? So I don't know, man. It took LeBron. Keep in mind, LeBron is 39. I think Steph is 36.
Damn near 40.
KD's 35. So like, and I want to ask,
34. Yep.
let's remember to discuss, by the way, at some point, where this team ranks all time in Team USA's, because I'm really interested in that discussion. But they are in the final phase. They're on their final legs, right? So I don't know where it transitions to, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think that where we out talent the world is off the bench. Like a lot of countries, I think now this year, what I noticed was that people were able to bring one NBA superstar, the teams that have them, and then one NBA player, which to me is a big upgrade from the past where it's just been no NBA players or one NBA player, and they probably not a star. So we have stars in the world now that are representing their teams, and some of these guys have a Robin with them that they can bring along, like we saw with Jokic and Bogey, or I think right now they're probably or even the French team with, even though Wemby's not a star yet. To me, he's in his role. He, a rim defending 3-point shooter. He's a hard, like you have to game plan around him. So I would give him that. You got, what's his name? Gobert. So these teams, I think they're going to keep adding. As you see, the number 1 pick this year is from France. The number 2 pick is from France. So like they have talent.
France is kind
they're
of
coming. Yeah. They're coming. You think about their team, Koulibaly, you got 2 of the number 2 pick. I'm forgetting his name. He got a brother. You got Wemby. Yeah. Obviously you got a bunch of guys.
Ricochet, the number 1 pick.
Ricochet, number 1 pick. And then
Alex Sarr.
Sarr got it's 2 stars that are going to be in the NBA. And just so many French kids that are going to be playing in the league. There's kids coming out all over the world that are going to be elite in the NBA. They're going to get drafted high.
Let me say one thing though. It's important to consider, kind of like you said, it's about who's young, right? Like Greece has Giannis, and they don't.
He's going to phase out. Yeah,
you know what I mean. I mean, they have him, and they can't get anything done. He's going to phase out. Luka will still, Slovenia will be a force because of Luka. Jokic is getting a little older, right? Serbia is crazy. Serbia seems to pump out athletes in, like, no matter what the sport is, despite being, not near the size of the U.S. But
I heard Serbia has a guard that's a prospect that's going to be like a number 1 type pick.
I wouldn't doubt that at all. So Serbia might be a problem. Australia might be a problem, right? Giddy,
Canada
will be around. Jock Landale, pretty good. Canada, SGA. Yeah. So it's like there is some give and take because some of these teams do have, like some of them are young. Some of them do have, like, their solid NBA players are older, like Germany, right? What's Germany without Schroeder? Not near as good, right?
Crazy to say that. Any team without Schroeder is like, that's a weird thing to hear.
but team Germany, I mean, he's
an international superstar. Like,
I mean,
isn't that weird, bro? Isn't it weird that some of these guys in the NBA, they're so like limited, but in international play, it's like it just unlocks.
Well, look, we have to keep in mind the intensity is heightened because it's a do or die scenario, right? You have the group stage and then do or die each game. So each game, it's like you're getting 100% effort. When we see these guys in the NBA spread out over 82, spread out over like, second night of a back-to-back against Charlotte, missing, their 3 of their starters. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So I think the concentration of how important each game is makes these guys, because it's not just, Dennis Schroeder's killing them. It's like Dennis Schroeder at max effort. Like that, it's different than, what is Dennis Schroeder on the average? It's like, this is Dennis Schroeder when he's putting, his life on the line on the court.
That's big facts. So now back to your point, like as far, I think Team USA, I think they'll always be the favorite, just because of the sheer number of talented players in the NBA. I think we're always going to have more depth than everybody. But as we see in these games, when it comes down to those, like the medal games, the stars are going to play the full. And I think we played a lot of teams even with our starters. And then when the bench came in, that's when we started winning some of the games early on in the tournament. And I going forward, I don't think you see that. But just thinking about the players that we have in the league right now, the only ones that, from this team that you can see there, Tatum, obviously. I think he's going to have a much bigger role. Hopefully this does put a chip on his shoulder. And then he comes back in 4 years and wants to be that guy, because I think he's really built for that. And I think Ant is going to, 4 years from now, what does Ant look like? I think Hallie is going to be better. Bam Adebayo, he's there as a defensive stopper. I'm not sure what AD is going to look like. But the young guys on the league, you think Cade maybe? I'm not sure. I don't know. Jaylen Brown, you know what I mean? Ja Morant, Zion, are they still going to be around being effective? We have stars. We have young stars. Anybody from the Rockets you think can make Team USA? If you had to pick?
I was going to say Şengün, but no. I would say Amen.
Yeah, I thought that too.
Just defensively and athletically.
He's a Team USA guy too. Like he just
he's in like the system.
Drew Holiday type. Yeah.
But we have talent, but in order to beat these teams at the world stage, you need wisdom. Truly. Like, I don't mean to sound like an old man, but like LeBron is the steadying force of that team, right? He is like the wise old man to OG on the court. Because when you're playing against those guys, you're playing against family, basically, right? It's a totally different, like, you know what I'm saying? And they have like the OGs on the court. You do not see any of those teams out there with non-OGs, right? Every one of those teams has their like anchor OG, like, oh, that dude's been on the team since he was 17 years old and now he's like 32 or, whatever. So who is that? Like, because when you get down, like they were down 17 to Serbia, right? You don't make that comeback without wild veteran presence on your team in that scenario where it's like, to your Mortal Kombat comparison, like the U.S. is, everyone wants the U.S. to lose, right? It's in Paris. Everyone wants the U.S. to lose. So it's like you're the gladiator on the stage and everyone's shouting down at you. You're down 17 on the verge of the biggest embarrassment in your country's history at the sport, Crazy. So it takes crazy balls and wisdom to come back from that. So, the Ja Morants and the Zions, when that becomes the torch passing, who steps up in terms of maturity, right? Like, who can handle that type of environment without losing their cool or getting in a fight or talking, you know what I mean? Like, it takes a different level of like adult maturity to walk into somewhere across the world against a talented team. I don't know if you've seen that movie with Adam Sandler. I forget what it's called. Hustle. Have you seen that movie?
Yes. I love that movie.
So like he's in some of those like overseas courts and it's a movie, so I get it. But like the atmosphere is crazy.
It's different. It's different. Like you seen the video of Serbia singing on the bus after they got their bronze. Like I put a tweet that said that when you're playing for your nation, bro, it just hits different than playing for it. Jokic doesn't look that happy winning the NBA championship. That's because, like you said, those dudes grew up together. Like these teams that are not America, they've literally been playing since they were children. And so they know each other. Like, and to your point, some of the older ones, they've watched these other ones grow up in that system. So this is it for them. This is everything. This is their Super Bowl, their NBA championship. And once again, a nation, we take it for granted. It means something to win an Olympic medal for a whole country. That's why these guys are getting mansions and all this $100,000 and this stuff. It means something.
Also, to that point, we are oversaturated. We're spoiled, right? Like we've had NBA stars since the 70s, basically. Before that, but like mainstream, we'll call it the 80s. Let's just say that is what, 4 decades, at least 4 or 5 decades of just stars. So the lineage of stars in this country goes deep, right? Like we have our generation of stars, the generation next has their generation of stars, and the generation before us has their generation of stars. And all those stars have some overlap in terms of where they rank in the pantheons of basketball history, right? So my point is, we get spoiled with that. Even we have stars that aren't even like all-time stars. They're just badass players, and they're still like, American stars. Other countries have like, on the whole, on the average, I guess, they have a much slimmer lineage of stars. You know what I mean? They have like the 5 core guys that are like the best their country's ever seen. And they're mostly from the 90s or the 2000s or something. You know what I mean? Like, so we have like hundreds of guys that we could stack up and be like, oh my God, like, we got Sean Kemp. You know what I mean? Sean Kemp is not like an all-time basketball player, but he is like a top 500 type player that, we grew up as like, oh my God, all-star. These guys, when it comes to their country, they have like, like imagine you're Germany. I think that Liv Shrimp is German, right? Imagine you're Germany. You got Detlef Schrempf. You got Dirk Nowitzki.
Yeah.
Right. And then you have like Dennis Schroeder and Franz Wagner. You know what I mean? Like they have their own local guys who were stars in the Euro League and all that, but like they don't have their NBA, like this guy made it and dominated at the highest level. So to your point, when they compete and some of these OGs and how tight knit they are and how well they know each other, like it's like that. Right. Like this is like the generation for some of these countries that is inspiring their entire country to want to be basketball players. So it hits on a whole crazier wave that we will probably never understand because we're so advanced with basketball history. Just a larger point.
And I think that even some of the Rockets fans, y'all see how the Turkish fans ride for Alperen Şengün. He's going to be one of those generational. He's already on pace to be probably their version of Dirk. Yeah. So like, that just to give you, not saying that some of the stuff they do is but that's to them is different. It's different.
Right.
It's different. Yes. Okay, so you wanted to rank the team. So obviously, to me, the only comparison would be the dream team. The redeem team is, I guess.
I think the redeem team is absolutely.
I think
the conversation is between the redeem team and does this team have a name yet? Are they just the 24 team?
I have no clue. I don't know what they're going to call them. But. Okay. So let me see. I don't want to mess up the recording thing here, but I'm going to pull up the roster from the Redeem team. I mean, yeah.
So while you do that, my main argument for the Redeem team is going to be number one. They still played some really good teams, and I think they beat them all by double digits. So they did not have to make the comeback.
They played the Gasol brothers. I know that much.
They did. Right, and they played the Gasol brothers. I think when they had like Rudy Fernandez in his prime and like that kind of. Maybe a couple other guys. So, like, that's a very, very good basketball team. But the main argument is I think that the Redeem team had at least the two best players in the game in their primes together.
Kobe and LeBron? Yeah, 29-year-old Kobe and a 23-year-old LeBron.
Yeah, so technically not his prime, but 23-year-old LeBron is a freak.
I mean, that's his fifth year, so he was kind of already in his prime.
Already in his prime, yeah. I think that I call that his prime for sure. So they had those two, and then Dwayne Wade wasn't far behind.
Dwayne Wade was probably into his prime way earlier than Brown was, in my opinion. Dwayne Wade was there. Kobe.
How old was Dwayne Wade?
You said what?
How old was Dwayne Wade?
26. 26 years old. Dwayne Wade, Darren Williams. You had Jason Kidd. Dwight was 22.
Okay, what about CP?
CP3, 23. Tayshaun Prince, Melo, Michael Redd, who didn't play that much, if I remember. Darren Williams, he played a little bit. Jason Kidd was the old head. Jason and Kobe. To your point, bro, about that, and a lot of people gave the WNBA women's for having Diana Taurasi on that team. You have to keep those old heads on because they're the ones, like you said, when things are going out of whack, you need somebody that's been there, done that. Because we saw when we actually lost with those when we were really young in the team in 2004, it was a bunch of young guys and they didn't know how to handle the adversity of when things don't go right. And you can see, even in this game, like Anthony Edwards, as much as I love him, he had a lot of CTE moments in the last game and this game, just because he's young. Like he was pressing, he felt the pressure of the team is like falling apart, or it seems like we're falling apart. So a young guy's natural inclination is, I got to do something. So let me just start pressing shots. Whereas you see the old heads, they don't stop whatever. They just keep doing their thing because they know it's going to that's how the game goes. So, to me, that's an important factor.
To add to that, there is a big difference to be had when grown men are playing kids, right? To your point about when they say like, oh, MJ played plumbers. Those were grown ass men, and he was like 24. You know what I mean? Like there is still something to be said for a grown ass man hitting you, and you're trying to play your game. Especially, let's say Anthony Edwards, right? He's used to the NBA. That's it. So he just knows getting his calls, right? The way he was getting hit today, those are free throws and foul calls, but he wasn't getting those calls, right? So you have that happening. Everything around you is spinning out of control, and you're playing grown ass men that are just hitting you, right? So. Huge difference. So you need your version of because we've all been in situations, whether it's something as like very simple and irrelevant as like a pickup basketball game. Whenever you melt in a sport, like whenever momentum pours down against you in a very short amount of time, it's really easy to lose your cool and just like give up or, take desperation shots, try to hit home runs when you should just like learn how to piece your way back in.
Yeah.
So we're playing grown ass men. You're going to need OGs in that room. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking about it. I'm going to say I think this team is more talented than the Redeem team just because Steph and KD and LeBron is like OD because Steph wasn't on that team. And I think Steph is worth multiple players on the Redeem team. I think KD probably evens out Kobe as far as at that point. Not like overall. I'm just talking about in a snapshot in the Olympics. To me, Kobe is like my top three. So I would say just talent wise, KD, Kobe is just to me. There's nobody. I don't think I would take a older LeBron with his wisdom and this LeBron for the Olympic stage than a younger LeBron because I feel like if you switch the two, I don't know. Maybe they blow every team out. I don't know. I think LeBron did a lot of like you said where he slowed it down. Maybe I'm gassing. I don't know, but I would take this team. I think over the Redeem team. In my opinion.
This LeBron was capable of hitting some big shots, right? This LeBron has a jump shot. That LeBron did not have a jump shot. And there were a couple times today where you saw LeBron just pulled and hit a three. And throughout the tournament, he's hit threes, right? So like that is a big asset. I think in every other facet though, 2008 LeBron, where he's getting like super above the rim because the primary asset that the United States has when they play these teams is we are by far more athletic. We get above the rim. Now, France has two, Godzillas on their team, so they were above the rim more than we were. But historically speaking, we get above the rim. And LeBron freight train above the rim. He got ripped a couple times. He had a couple turnovers in tonight's game and throughout this tournament that he usually in the past didn't have because he was so athletic that he would just get up, but now he's not getting up like that. So the ball's down here and it's a little easier to stop him. But okay, Kobe, KD, I don't know if I agree, but I'll take your point. Maybe I think I agree. Olympic KD is a cheat code.
I mean, he's literally one of the best Olympic players ever.
Right. I mean, he's the leading point scorer in
leading
United
scorer,
States.
most gold medals in basketball, et cetera, et cetera.
Arguably the greatest basketball Olympian from maybe ever.
Real quick, why do you think he's so good? Is it because we've seen KD in like Rucker Park? Like he's made for that type of game almost, where it's like
he's so good because he's made in a lab to be a scorer. He is an isolation god, and let's talk some of the because I still want to talk some of the basketball. So in a lot of moments they would break down into isolation, and he was their bailout bucket, right? Because he is first of all 7 feet. Second, he's just so much more athletic than the guy whoever's guarding him. Chances are in an Olympic game, right? And then at the end of the day, he will just rise up. I mean, there's only one guy that could maybe guard him face up in terms of these international teams, and it's probably Wemby, right? Yeah. So he just rises up, and it's also the 3-point line is a little bit shorter. So that mid-range is just like super easy for him to work. It's absurd. But you have Kobe, KD, you have LeBron. Steph is Steph, but man, Steph's counterpart on the 08 Redeem team is prime Wade and prime Melo.
Okay,
so
Melo.
I mean, Olympic Melo too, right? So like, it's tough. And then when you talk big men, I think Embiid was kind of a bust. He had his one game against Serbia that he was needed, but otherwise he was kind of just didn't work with Team USA. AD did some good things, but I think 08 Dwight Howard was just on a different level in terms of dominating the glass, intensity, athleticism, ferocity.
Dwight and Chris Bosh.
Okay, that's a pretty good front line.
I don't know. I'm gonna here's my haymaker for you on that. And they pointed out early in the tournament, 68 NBA players around the world competed outside of the U.S. compared to I think the last for that team was like 6 or something like that. So I think that maybe that team, who knows, that team may have blown out everybody in this and made some of these games aren't like the game against the Sudanese. Like maybe that's not even close to the Redeem team. I don't know. Yeah. There's something different about this team though. I don't know whether it's the fact that it's election season. I don't know if it is. It's just something. Not for real, bro. I've heard this from multiple people. There is an element of something going on that makes this almost relieving. And this is not a political podcast, but I feel like the country has been going through so much since the pandemic, all the stuff that's happening and this and wars and this and that. To have something that unifies everybody because the Redeem Team goal was just to like, bro, we got to get our lick back. We coming back for blood. This was like, we've been fighting so much in America, bro. Let's gather around and cheer for them. And I think that's where you just see it. It felt so good. And even though the games were sloppy, some of the games, like we almost lost like 3 times to 3 teams that we probably would have destroyed otherwise. To me, it has something special. Now, the Dream Team versus this team, that one is a little bit harder because, like I said, with the physicality thing, I think the competition is something to say, but the star power is different. Like it's all damn near all Hall of Famers. Yes. Whereas this team, you got guys like, you know,
let me put it to you like this. 08 and 92, the United States had the best player in the world in his prime playing.
Facts.
This time we did not. This time they played against the best player in the world in his prime, and they almost lost to him. So I think, and then when you look at 08, and you could look at 92 as well, basically 92 and 08, they might have had the 2 best players in the world in their primes at the same time. You know what I mean? So that's the difference. I will also say, in terms of needing a bailout bucket, this current USA team, without KD, they would not have won the gold. KD had the calf strain, and they almost lose to South Sudan, and they almost lose a couple of those warm-up games. KD didn't play in those games. They need a bailout bucket because, in part, LeBron isn't, he can't just go get it like he used to. He's more of a facilitator. Steph Curry would get it off screens and, all that, and he finally got it going in the last 2 games, but it's different than like, hey, man, we need a bucket, dump it to this guy, back out, watch him work, right? 08 had Melo and Dwayne Wade and Kobe and LeBron. I mean, they had so many, and KD, right?
I don't think KD. Yeah, he was, because I think it's 8, 12, 16, 20. These 5 gold medals. He might have not been on that team. I don't think he was on that team.
I can't remember, but they had so many bailouts.
He was not. He was not. He came in 2012. Okay. Yeah.
So they had so many bailout buckets, right?
Yeah.
But let's also talk, and then also to your point about the unification, I will say this. That's why I said, if this doesn't get you fired up, then like I don't know what to tell you, right?
You're a communist. No, I'm playing. Go ahead.
I think the main reason that it felt this way is because we felt very vulnerable. I feel like we were vulnerable, right? Especially after how they warmed up. I feel like the rest of the world was like, yo, this is the time, Goliath is finally going to fall. And so, and I had the feeling when I was watching them, I was like, man, I don't know if this team's going to win gold. And it felt like they pulled together to actually do it. To their credit, when we're comparing the teams, no other team had to come back from 17 down. So that's a ding against them. But to their credit, beating any team 3 times in 2 weeks is hard. Any good team.
Yeah.
It's hard to do, no matter how you slice it. Doesn't matter. Any sport, by the way. Doesn't matter. And doing it to a team that has the best player in the world is even harder. So I don't know how to call it. I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment. 08 felt super good. I cannot wait for the documentary about this one. Like, when the one about 08 came out and we got the stories about Kobe, like, knocking Powell over. And, like I can't wait for the stories about this one. I'll say that.
I want to see what Jason Tatum was thinking throughout all this stuff with his thing, which, I mean, that whole him not playing thing, it is a bit weird, but his style is not, he can't shoot. He can't shoot. He can't shoot. He can't dribble. He can't pass. He's not made for international type of play.
Correct.
He's not a cutter.
I don't want to hear any of that.
He's not a cutter. He's not a,
we didn't need him. Like,
he doesn't set screens. He's an ISO bucket. Yeah.
If he's whining, I just want to be like, bro, please humble yourself, right? Like, you were a part of the experience.
Right.
Be happy with that. You contributed. You did it last at 2020. This tournament didn't call for your bag and skill set. Like, just humble yourself, man. It's Team USA. Come on.
I would say that we're at a juncture where we're actually seeing something happening in the world, whereas this may be the last time, and it was fitting that it was the heroes of today's basketball to be able to get that gold. And don't take it for granted, man. Don't take it for granted, because this may be, this may be the last one that we can just say like we got it. Now, the next Olympics is going to be in LA. I am going to try to, like, bro, I don't know how much it costs. I don't know if I should start saving up now. I already told my partner, like, bro, start looking at hotels. We're going. Like, we're going to try to be at some of these games. Like, I have to, because this is something on my bucket list of basketball to experience in person. Once again, this was, for me, like, and you think about it, as a Rockets fan, we haven't experienced meaningful basketball since the bubble, and
Yeah.
this was the closest thing we've gotten to meaningful
Yeah.
basketball that we
It's a
are all
great point.
invested in fully. Like my heart was beating like it was the Rockets against the Warriors, and it just makes me think that, bro, I can't do another bad season, Rockets. Y'all got to win, bro. I'm tired of this. I cannot.
Man,
I'm not like I need a like we have to be in the playoffs. We have to be. I can't do this anymore. No more losing.
I agree, man. It was nice to just like, first of all, rooting for Steph Curry is crazy.
It's crazy. It's a great experience. I'm not gonna lie.
It's so much fun, man, because like you just have so much confidence in it. Let's talk a little bit about the basketball, by the way. So I do want to point out that there was one play specifically. LeBron is on the left elbow. I forget which half. I think it was the first half. LeBron was on the left elbow. Steph was in the corner next to him. Steph cut baseline. LeBron hit him with the bounce pass. Steph caught the bounce pass. I think he took one or two dribbles out, kicked it right to KD, who's on the opposite elbow.
Yeah.
And KD cashes a three. And it's like, I tweeted about it, but that is, go back and watch how beautiful that execution is. That is basketball in its purest form, right? IQ, off-ball movement, and then skill execution to catch and shoot with three of the best to ever do it at their positions, arguably the three best at their positions. I just thought that was crazy. I also thought it was crazy that France went to a zone for a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, zones are designed to make you shoot threes. And I think the knock on the United States is like, I don't think we have great catch and shoot, spot up 3-point shooters on that roster. You have KD, you have Steph, and I think that's, Ant is pretty good.
Booker is a pretty good shooter.
But they're not like these white boys off Serbia and Germany that are just like, classic like perfect catch and shoot shooters. They're more, they can catch and shoot, like they're capable of it, but they're not the best at catching and shooting. They have a component to their shooting that requires rhythm or doing it off the dribble, specifically with Ant and like Devin Booker, right? So you run that zone, and France obviously is going to park Wembanyama in the middle and just use his length to like kind of cheat a little bit and play basically like a wide like circle zone with everyone else, in their little zone, the little bubble of their zone. And so for a minute, it kind of stifled the United States, right? And then they found it. But it's just crazy to see a zone against a team with Steph Curry. I just thought that was like, when do you see that? So your thoughts?
No, I mean, a lot of people gave Steve Kerr slander, which to me is stupid because even if Steve Kerr like was halfway just concussed out there, he's also that was probably the greatest coaching bench that you could put together. Ty Lue, Spo, and Steve Kerr. I mean, that's like
why is Kenny Atkinson an assistant coach for France?
I don't know. I have no clue. I saw him hugging. I thought that was him. I couldn't. Then I saw the slick back, and I was like, oh yeah, that is Kenny Atkinson.
I was ready to storm the Capitol when I saw that. I was like,
he probably maybe he's like he played for them, or he's who knows. I was like, grandpa. There's some connection. I don't know. He's a French national. Who knows? But our coaching staff was elite. So I was never worried about Steve Kerr. Like Steve Kerr he's just the face of the coaching staff. One thing about him that I've learned about just watching the Warriors, he defers to his assistants a lot. Like those guys are doing, it's a team effort. The reason I bring that up, to your point, playing a zone, they adjusted to that so beautifully. Fill the corners, Booker, Steph in the corner. Every action started with fill corners with elite shooters. And then you have LeBron, and they started using KD to set screens.
They also started using Drew Holiday to pop the middle.
Yep. Well, he's a perfect, facilitator for that role. Yep. And attacking that, starting the actions with Steph in the corner, moving him around, getting him up in the paint, then coming out to get into DHOs, into pick and rolls where whoever that middle zone defender, you're going to have to step up and make a decision whether, and that's really what kind of messed France up. And then they started doing Steph and KD pick and rolls. And France committed to Steph. KD would get the ball. The guy would run back to try to get to KD. KD pass it back to Steph. That's where when he got cooking towards the fourth quarter. I've seen people post like, oh, these guys are just hooping. Bro, this was a beautiful and one of the best two games I've seen because of the X and O's. Like it was so elite. Every little thing mattered. Like everything was a counter. There were counters on counters. The players were making counters on their own. They were like, if you really understand basketball, like you pointed out that play, this was chess. It was art. It was science. It was like the peak of everything that the sport is just being displayed. Like you said, I don't think just because the mind's involved, the level of skill, the pressure, the moment, the world stage, you can't replicate this. Even in the NBA championship, because the championship is between two cities. You know what I mean? And those
Yeah.
fans may feel that way. But for a game where the whole world is like glued in and the pressure of that, the players can feel it. And you're on the road. You on the road, bro. Bro, we played a road game.
A road
Game
game.
7.
Straight up.
On the road, bro, and went and got it.
Straight up.
Just beautiful stuff, man. Beautiful stuff. I think we are running for we can stop there. Obviously, there's nothing going on with the Rockets right now. When does camp start for them? By the way,
man, I have no idea.
It's like September usually, or maybe late August.
Yeah, it's August 10th. I think camp itself is the last week of September usually.
Oh, okay. I know they've been training. Yeah. You seen the pictures of your boy Şengün, man? He looking like he put on some muscle, man.
I saw that. We'll see. You know, people always get excited about that. I don't really know what it means for. You know what I mean? Like his weakness was not strength. He was. I mean, maybe strength in terms
endurance
of,
for me.
Right. Yeah, endurance. Maybe he could use some more beef to defend like Jonas Valanciunas. You know. Yes. But he's had his way pushing guys around so far in the league. I mean, sure, get stronger. That's cool. I need to see the shot though. That's the main thing.
I would say the shots. Me personally, I think his strength and endurance is probably for a big man. I think it's very important. One things I saw let down the stretch, he would fade out on the other stuff big men are supposed to do: rebounding, boxing out, fighting for stuff. You know, he could still score at any time. I think his endurance was the issue. I think the strength comes into play when he plays like bigger guys, not even bigger guy, like what's his name, Sabonis. Would bully him sometimes, you know, just stronger. He's a kid. So getting that grown man thing. I seen Jabari put on a little muscle. I'm really excited about the team, man.
It'll also help the Flamingo because like that's a tough shot and he needs a little more push behind it.
The legs are going to be there. So.
I hope he doesn't lose his touch. You know, that's like his touch is what makes him special. So I hope if he can combine the strength gain and the weight gain, presumably, with keeping the touch and the finesse, that's where it's like, you know, that would be great. So
I think for me, I think touch is innate. Just to me, that's where I think guys are either just heavy handed or you got it. So yeah, bro. So man, appreciate you for coming on short notice. I just hit him up and said, bro, you want to record? He was like, yeah, let's do it now. So we're here. Shout out to y'all. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, hit the like button. Keep rocking the Chop Shop. I'm going to keep dropping that